Security is not a technology function anymore. It is not. We are more aligned with finance and legal than we are with IT and dev.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the HIP Podcast. I'm Sean Duvey, Principal Technologist Americas for Semperis. In the work we do every day, we have to deal with technology, with processes that work with the technology, and with the people associated with both. People, process, technology. The framework first popularized in the information security industry in the 90s. Over time, the technology leg of this three-legged stool has tended to overweight the other two legs, and AI is certainly adding more emphasis. But as technologists, the people are often an afterthought. I mean, we are called technologists after all, not peopleists. We'd be working in some other department. I remember a few years ago an aha moment about people early in the cloud revolution, when a Gartner analyst said that one of the biggest stumbling blocks to cloud acceptance wasn't the difference in technology, but the culture of the workforce and the fear of job loss. And let's be clear, success dealing with people is an almost completely different skill set than dealing with technology. If you don't think so, just ask your spouse or partner. My guest today is Nathan Wenzler, Field CISO at Optiv, where he advises clients on how to strengthen and optimize every aspect of their cybersecurity program. With nearly 30 years of experience, he has built and led security initiatives for government agencies, nonprofits, and Fortune 1000 companies. Nathan has served as a CISO, executive management consultant, and senior analyst. He's held leadership roles at Tenable, Moss Adams, Aztec, and Thycotic. He's also spent more than a decade in public sector IT and security roles with Monterey County, California, and supported state and federal agencies. Welcome, Nathan.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
It's great to have this conversation. I think that this is a much neglected area in cybersecurity, so I'm really happy to discuss it. So for starters, since this is an identity podcast, how is identity different than other aspects of security and technology when it comes to the people aspect?
Well, I mean, I think we could have a lot of obvious answers here right out of the gate, right? I mean, initially, identity, we always thought of it as the digital representation of the user, right? We all have usernames and passwords. We had to have something to sign in with. We built, back in the day when all of this was first starting, we had Active Directory and Novell and other directory services to try to build a way to organize who was accessing what. But as time went on, we started assigning identities to services and applications and things that didn't necessarily represent humans. And that proliferated, of course, a kind of a newer definition for what identity was. And identity, I think a lot of folks don't necessarily see it as that like sort of human connection between what you do with technology or on the internet or on a network and who the person is that's doing it. Now it's just simply the way you manage access control for everything. And we've lost a little bit, I think, of that idea about what it was meant to do, how we were meant to really manage it and use it, because it has gotten so big, right? With so much, to your point earlier, but so much technology out there today, everything has identities. Everything, not just the people.
Right.
And so we know that it's fundamental. We know that it has to be part of every security program. We know that there's more identities out there than we have users and people. But it is a different thing now, right? Really, we've focused almost too much on the technology side of it. We're losing the sight of how are we making managing these things easier for people, benefit the users, benefit our customers. How do we do better with identity so that we still maintain that synergy? Well, I hate using buzzwords like that, but the synergy between the humans and the technology that those people are using. If we can kind of get back to some of that, I think we start to have a better idea for ourselves about how to manage it, not just from a security standpoint, but also how to make it more of a value to the business, frankly. So it's a long road.
It is, and with as you say, this overwhelming explosion in identities, in the approach to identities, and the latest buzzword of NHIs, non-human identities, and the, what is it, 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio or bigger that we're hearing. But ultimately, the business is about people and about getting things done under, either you could look at it as either at the top or at the bottom
Right.
of this sea of technology and identities. As I was relating in the introduction, culture plays an important role in building and maintaining a security aware organization. And there are all kinds of different aspects to it. But I mean, how can a culture help or hinder the security mission for a CISO or for a senior leader or anyone in cybersecurity? Corporate culture.
Well, this becomes the question that we're probably going to spend the next hour on, right? There's so much involved in this particular piece. I think there's a couple of pieces that stand out for me. So first of all, I want to kind of reiterate what we just said. We've lost a little bit of that connection between why did we have identities in the first place? It was to represent the user and their presence within this technology space. And now we use it for everything. It's runs services, runs applications, it's our API connectors, it's database management, it's everything, right? 4-to-1, 5-to-1. I've heard those ratios for non-human identities. I've seen some reports later saying now 10-to-1 with the explosion of cloud and AI and all the rest of that more and more identities are floating out there because of it. But none of those are tied to people. And so when we think about culturally, what did we start with? Well, we started with security awareness programs that were trying to teach everybody to use long passwords and to replace your password every so often and change it and make sure it's strong, because we wanted to make sure that people had a simple and secure way to access whatever they were doing with technology. We know now with non-human identities, none of those passwords are getting rotated on a regular basis. No human is managing that. We're not teaching the services or the applications that it's good practice, that
Right.
those services will feel better if they just, change their password every 90 days. That's a culture thing, right? It really is a culture shift where we started to see identities less as people and more about just plug into this application and make it work. It's just another piece of code to make the whole thing work. That's a major culture shift, right? And I think we do have to realistically get a better handle on that. And of course, that means a change in culture back a little bit to having humans involved. And when we start to have those conversations, especially at a C level, when you start to have conversations with organizations about, we really need to secure everything. Like all of those non-human identities need to be treated probably more carefully because of the amount of data access they have and the lack of oversight. So we need to change their passwords more often. Well, what's going to happen? 20 years ago, if I told a group of users, like companies that I worked for, there would be some grumbling, but people would change their passwords. They might change it to password 1, and then password 2, and then password 3, but they would do it. Well, now we're not talking with the average users, right? We're talking to development teams that are tasked with bringing more value to the business as fast as possible. They are tasked with creating more revenue, if that's what the kind of company you're in, building more services for clients and customers. This is not a culture of security. This is a culture of speed. And so you now have to go to people who are very technically sharp, who know how these things work. They're not in a position to just go along with it. They know, they understand. But it is hard and it's slower. If you ask programmers to build better controls natively into their application or secure those credentials that they're hard coding into these applications, and let's be frank, that's still happening no matter what anybody says.
Yeah.
You're asking them to do more work. You're asking them to take more time. You're asking them to sort of derail what they're there to do and bring them to this sort of different culture of awareness and security and functionality that they don't really necessarily do. So our culture change is sort of coming full circle, just in a different speed and a different way, right? We started with being tying humans to technology through these user accounts. We've moved almost stripping the humans out of it all. And now we've got to get back to getting the humans back on board again. That's your dev teams, that's your DevOps, it's the board, it's everybody who's involved in the business side of it, has to get back on board with understanding that the way we've now decided to use identity, it has to be dealt with better than we've ever done with any of it before. More strongly than we did for users, more strongly than what we used to do for Active Directory management and all the rest of that. We have to do a better job, and that starts with all of us kind of addressing that cultural resistance to doing the extra work to secure those identities. And it's hard. Every organization has a different problem with it. There's different political challenges there. Sometimes it's financial, sometimes it's speed of business, sometimes it's just the CTO doesn't wanna. I mean, that's sometimes that just happens. But for CISOs and for anyone in that kind of leadership position, this is where the people side of this becomes so critical. We have to build those connections. We have to help justify the business value. We need to help show those people why it's in their best interest to take those identities seriously, both the human and non-human identities, and do something to secure them at the speed that we continue to roll them out and leverage them in every piece of software, every bit of infrastructure that we do, and everything that we're building our businesses on. That is becoming just a key need for most CISOs in this day and age.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that in this drive for innovation, and this is something that our strategic advisor, Chris Inglis, always likes to say, is that security has taken a back seat over speed, time to market, and innovation. It has always taken a back seat. And of course, now it's biting us. And that goes all the way back to Active Directory and service accounts. And what we're all seeing, and this is not a blinding flash, this is not an incredible revelation, is I look at the lack of governance, and I'm not a governance person, but I have come to recognize the critical importance of governance in security, is the general lack of governance in most of our identity systems. And that's the root of so many of our problems. And now we have these non-human identities, and as you said, there's no governance, there's no attestation, there's nothing associated with it. And development teams don't get bonuses for applying extra security to the new code that they're developing. And so it's difficult because we're fighting human nature, and we're fighting, and to come full circle on the question, we're fighting culture. We're fighting culture not only in the company, because the company can put together a secure by default culture. And I think of Jen Easterly right now working on promoting fewer bugs and more security. But it's the market that the company lives in, so that if they're putting a greater emphasis on security, that probably will make them slightly slower to market than their competitors that aren't. And the stick of compromise or breach, again, coming back to human nature, is a little more abstract than your manager saying, hey, you've got this deadline and you've got to get this done. How do you align your security operations with organizational culture? Or maybe a little more optimistically, are there ways that you can nudge the corporate culture, if you're thinking and you're in a high enough managerial role, to supporting a more secure initiative?
So I think, there's a lot of different ways, and it's going to depend a lot on your particular organization, because again, everybody's a little bit different. If you think about the political climate within a organization, you might have leadership at the very top who's very tech savvy, and they can kind of get it if you find a way to explain it to them in a simple way. And you might have folks who still to this day have trouble logging into their laptop and just sending emails, right? So you have to kind of find the techniques or the value that is going to resonate with those particular people, whether that's a leadership or a dev team or whatever the case might be. So, this could be, maybe you do implement better tooling that can give you governance. right? One of the nice things about going back to your intro, one of the nice things about us leaning so heavily on tools for the last 20 years is the tools have gotten really good. There are some great tools out there that can do a lot for you. And governance is one of them, especially when we talk about things like Active Directory, which has been around, I think you and I were talking about this before, 25 years now, 26, right? That's a lot of years, and system administrators and IT people that have probably gone through your organization that have made different changes, different group structures, different nesting structures, different naming conventions. It's a mess. And tools are going to be your way to at least start to get your arms around it. So do some governance. Yeah, that's great. Let's identify where all the NHI accounts are happening. Let's identify what the rights and permission structures look like. Who has access to what? When we're looking at those identity governance tools that are coming out right now, there's a really fantastic, wireframe reporting that they do to tell you, hey, Nathan's account was set up for this very limited access, but because you screwed up one thing along the way, he's got access to everything over here. That's fantastic. The governance is the first start, and that might be enough in some organizations to take reports like that and say, hey, listen, look how bad the problem is. We have data and evidence to show you the problem is bad, and we need to do something about it. Tech-minded people might buy into that. But your next step, of course, is when you start to run into the situation where it's going to cost the business money.
Right.
I had this happen one company that I worked for years ago, where a developer had hard-coded in clear text the database credentials for the back end of this application. Not good. This is not good at all. Hopefully anyone listening to this is rolling their eyes about, like, how could that be? But it still happens to this day. And when I tried to talk to them about, listen, we need to do something here. We have tools. We actually have a vault system. We have all these things in place. We can tokenize that and rotate that password and encrypt it and hide it and make sure that it's so good. But that would have meant to take the application down, and they estimated that it was going to be a 3 to 6 week process to try to redo all of the authentication structure throughout the application to accommodate for that. That 3 to 6 weeks would have cost that business, they estimated, about $5.5 million. So how do I tell this business that we have the tool and we know it's the right thing to do, and we all sit around the room saying it's a good idea, and then say, but yeah, it's going to cost you not, the $10,000 for the tool and not the $20,000 for the developer's time. It's going to cost you $5.5 million to put that in place. It's not a very popular decision, right? So you have to read the room of those kinds of situations. Maybe they're going to listen to the cost of a breach. Maybe they're going to listen to how much will you get fined from a regulatory standpoint if that data gets out. Maybe they're going to see legal liability or reputation loss as the answer to that. Why do I pay $5.5 million worth of downtime to secure this application? You got to figure out which one of those things is going to convince the business that, yeah, unfortunately, it really is worth it. Now, it also justifies future culture changes, right? This is where even if they don't do that, great. But you all acknowledge this would have cost us $5.5 million if we did it. How do we make sure we don't continue writing code and continue building applications and services in this manner? We need to make sure our developers are better trained. We need to have tools in place to guard at repository level or even in the development environment to catch this stuff and make sure it meets policy requirements. Right. That's a way to start to have a different conversation around cultural change as well. And the last thing I'll add to this, internally, there's a lot of tools you have, like I just mentioned, regulations, legal liability, reputation loss. I think we're starting to see, though, finally, that end users and consumers are starting to understand how important this stuff is. Right? There's still a lot of, I don't really care if someone compromises my accounts. But they do start to care when it's banks and their shopping sites and anything financially related. They start to feel the impact.
Healthcare.
Or healthcare, absolutely. So we're seeing more and more that the consumers are asking the companies that they do business with, hey, are you securing my data? Are you locking down my accounts? Do I have an option to use MFA when I log into your website? Do you make that option? It's a small but growing number. And I think for CISOs, if you can find a way to educate your users, your customers, your whoever you're doing business with to say, hey, this stuff is important for you. You should demand this of us. We, as your business partner, whatever service we're providing you, we should be giving you this great service and giving you the security. And when the users start to demand that they want it, the business has to listen at some point. And so that can help to build some of that justification from external pressure as well. It's a long game. I mean, you have to, this is not something that you're going to solve as a CISO in a week or two. You're looking at a year to 18 months of constant education and work and building your use cases with your board and identifying all the right regulations and doing, there's a lot involved there, but that's what it takes to change culture. It's never going to be a quick thing. And finding what's going to work for your organization amongst all of those pieces, that's kind of, for me, the make or break of a great CISO. If they can figure out what the thing is that works in their environment to get people on board, then you've unlocked the problem. You can start to solve what you need to solve.
I think of the people skills of a CISO in using your example of a brittle and very expensive application. Maybe the risk mitigation is, you can't, the choice is not to refactor because it's too expensive, but you have to segment it off or otherwise mitigate the risk around it. But then to be able to say to the board, to management, to whoever, to say, look, we've had to put spit and baling wire around this, but this shows the cost of what could be fixed in the beginning if we can build a culture of more secure at the beginning. And that's a sort of thing that filters down from management to the teams to say, you don't want to be the person responsible for the thing that makes the application responsible for that.
That's a great point. And you make me think about that time because I will tell you personally, I was very frustrated because as a CISO, as a security practitioner, I want to do it right. I know what I need to do. We could talk about best practices all day long, and I want to do it right. We want to protect our environments. That felt like a big failure when I couldn't get that particular change on that application. But I will tell you, having that first failure quantified meant that I got to use it for every argument after that. Every single argument. If the CTO said to me, we're not implementing that tool in my dev environment, we're not doing any monitoring of my team, you're never going to do that. I'm like, great, you got $5.5 million? Are you okay with that loss? And you watch them stop. What? But remember, when the devs wrote that bad code, that would have cost us $5.5 million to fix. This investment here of an extra 3 seconds to scan code, in the environment of your people's time, that seems like a less costly thing than a $5.5 million loss, doesn't it? Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it's hard to argue that point, right? So, I think for anyone, if you're in leadership today, I mean, don't look at the failure as absolute. Look at that as a milestone point that you can then refer back to every single time those conversations come up. Yes, you're going to be a broken record. Yes, you're beating a dead horse. That's the job. I mean, unfortunately, that really is sometimes the job. But when you have that tangible thing, it makes it a lot easier to tell anybody in leadership or anyone in the conversation, hey, you accepted this risk because of this thing. I'm trying to prevent the next one. You can't claim ignorance. You can't claim you don't know what it costs us. You can't claim that the loss is intangible. We defined it. Now, every time we have the conversation, it's going to be, will you invest in my process change? Will you invest in this tool? Or do you want to spend $5.5 million to fix it later?
Right. Or the variation being, do you want to see your company's name above the fold in the Wall Street Journal?
Right. Absolutely. For companies who care about that. There are some who don't, right? But yeah, it's once you have that failure that's been defined, that becomes a really important tool to just keep reminding people. This is why we build process. This is why we train our people. This is why we try to make this as simple as possible when we're implementing security controls, because you know what it could cost us if we do it wrong. You have a number. You have something that we can refer back to. And that's a really important reminder for business people to have, because they seem to forget.
Well, we have all these communication aspects, and I think of, I think that cybersecurity has or has had at least a bad reputation with the rest of the organization. The end users feel like they're being spied on and that security is getting in their way. The rest of IT, having spent many years in IT, feels that the security team is just assigning them more work without, without doing it themselves. And then upper management, just as you outlined, thinks that the team costs a lot of money or are driving for things that cost a lot of money that they aren't see direct business value of, right? That whole refactoring thing, at the end of the day, the business will more or less operate the same with this slightly abstract concept of being more secure. So if you were a CISO stepping into the role at a new organization, how would you approach this? There are these different aspects. There's managing up, there's managing down, if you want to call it that way, down to the end user community. Hey, we're doing this for you. And I've seen this in my whole career, is by and large, IT people are lousy communicators. and security people are potentially even worse. How do you do that? There are different aspects to different areas, but let's start with the user, the end user, your ultimate subjects and what's going on. How do you make them appreciate in communications? There's the technical aspect of it, which is how do you implement MFA in a nice way and all that, but we're talking about the human aspect of it. How do you do that from a human point of view to go, all right, these guys are on my side. They're trying to help me,
Well, this is going to sound maybe a little woo-woo for some people. If you're not into acting or theater or whatnot, we get into visualizations of things.
You're going to offer up salt crystals for everybody.
Yeah, but looking inward is a starting point. And when I say that, what I mean is, security practitioners, we are, by our nature, a very unique group of people. We have a very different mindset. We see the world in different ways. It's not just that we're really strong technologists and we understand how the things work, but we also understand the threats, and that gives us urgency. And it's one of the reasons over the years I've been convinced why we collectively tend to be very bad communicators, because we usually are coming from a point of panic, of urgency, of fear, of saying, hey, I see the fire starting to burn. Let's put this thing out. And everyone else doesn't see it. They don't like, what fire? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. There's this idea. It's a lot of authors have written about this. Malcolm Gladwell does my favorite version of it. If you ever read through some of his books, which I recommend for a lot of people, by the way, if you're in security, it's a great way to get your mind thinking about different viewpoints. But he talks about the curse of knowledge, or sometimes referred to as the burden of knowledge. And it's a very, very common psychological problem that first was identified in legal and medical industries, but it absolutely applies to cybersecurity as well. And what it means is that if you have a lot of specialized knowledge, like a doctor or a lawyer, you tend to see the world through that lens. It's such a common thing for you to see the world with all of your knowledge that you forget sometimes that not everybody has that view, right? It's the thing with doctors when someone says, oh, my head hurts, and they go, oh, aneurysm, cancer, we got to get a full MRI scan. But you never ask the person what happened. You immediately go to what you know. You know all these really terrible threats. And the person just needs to tell you, like, yeah, I went to go open my front door and I just didn't open it all the way and I banged into it. Oops, right? We forget this as cybersecurity people. So it doesn't matter who the audience is. End users, board members, the IT department, devs, we have to take a moment and look within and go, okay, I understand this problem very, very deeply, but the people I'm about to talk to probably don't. So how do I reframe what I'm about to say or teach them about this in a way that doesn't see the world through my lens? This is not an easy thing to do. You have to kind of build towards this, but if you're going to be successful in leadership, this is the key skill, in my opinion, that allows you to start that fundamental communication strategy that will work. So if you can do that, You want to go to end users and talk to them about why this stuff is important? Sure. It's not that they're stupid. They just don't know the world like you know the world. So talk to them about, listen, your identity, everything that happens in your account is tied to you as a human. And the way that the laws work today, the way that a number of regulations and even just civil liability to some extent, depending on the world you're in, you can be held liable for the things that happen under your account. Nobody wants that. You don't want that. We don't want harm for you. Forget the business for a second. We don't want you harmed as my end user. So let's talk about the ways to protect that and make sure that you're comfortable with whatever security we're putting into place, MFA or password character requirements, whatever it is. Educate, do all the things that we need to do to help them, but always from that standpoint of the old WIFM thing, right? What's in it for me?
Right.
Establish what's in it for them, not necessarily what's in it for you. That's the key thing, is once you talk about it from the standpoint of security or the business, like that's you essentially. And that's where people see security as obstacles, right? One of my biggest successes I had as a leader, when I come on board to a company new, first time I walk in the door, I go talk to the CFO. I don't talk to the IT person. I don't talk to the devs. I go to the CFO. And I sit down with the CFO and say, hey, what's keeping you up at night? What are you worried about? Where's all of our revenue streams? Where's the money that we're concerned about? What are you really concerned about? Because at the end of the day, I'm in the same line of work as the CFO. We're there to mitigate risk. We're there to protect the organization and keep it healthy. Them from a financial investment standpoint, me also from a financial standpoint, just on the technical execution, right?
Right.
So getting the CFO to talk to me and just listening to them about, well, I'm concerned about our e-commerce website. I'm concerned about AI. I'm concerned about our users leaking our secrets. Like, okay, I'm starting to understand what's important to you. I don't need to talk to that person about best practices or the NIST standards or an ISO 27000 audit and how we need to pass it or else. I've got information from this person about what's important to them. So every conversation I'm going to have with the CFO from now on, I'm going to build around that. You know, hey, you're concerned about our e-commerce application. You know what? You are right to be concerned about it. I found some things. My team found some things. You are dead. You were completely correct. Let's solve that because look what we found. And that's the CFO's like, oh, wow, you did something for me. I was afraid of that website and you went and did it. Oh, that's great. Now you've got their buy-in. Every one of this conversation has to be kind of this way. Find whatever you can do to not talk about yourself, or yourself being the security team, and make it what's important to them. If you can do that, they don't feel like you're the obstacle. They feel like you're doing something for them, but you are quietly, without taking credit for it, strengthening your security program as well, right? You brought up the ops teams, which I think is the best example of this. Mm-hmm. You know, the IT team hates security because you're just dumping more work on my desk. Yeah, folks, I've been at this a long time. That is true. That's exactly what we do in security. We absolutely do dump a bunch of work on IT people's desks, and we just tell them, you have to do it, or else, because the whole thing could come down if we don't do it. But we are legitimately giving them a lot more work that they may not be incentivized to do. Their bonus plans may not be around doing that work. So yeah, you're going to look like the obstacle. That is what we are. But if you can go to those folks and say, listen, what can I do to help mitigate some of that work? How can I help? Is there a place that I could automate something? Is there a place that I could trim the reports down so that you're not getting overwhelmed with hundreds of items? What can I do to help make this a little bit easier for you to deal with? I've had organizations that I've worked with that we had folks that literally just wanted to change in how tickets were issued in their ticketing system. Because the security tools, it's like more of a patch management kind of thing, but the security tools would open one ticket for every vulnerability or missing patch found.
Oh gosh.
So if you're the admin, you might have 300, 400, 500 servers, but you end up with 20,000 tickets. It's good for tracking, not good for the person who has to do the work. And when we flipped it, we just one simple change after a conversation I had with the support team. Okay, we'll issue one ticket per server and give you a list of the patches within the inside the ticket of these are the patches that need to be dealt with within for this one server. And so we took it down from 20,000 tickets to 300 tickets. Suddenly we're heroes. Same work's getting done, same patching's getting applied, but now we're not obstacles anymore. We're being seen as helping them through that.
Right.
So when you're talking to IT teams about identity management, identity governance, yes, we have to do the hard slog to get through cleaning up our Active Directory or whatever the trial is going to be. Don't even talk about security. Find a way to take security out of the equation and find the operational benefit that will help them. If you can say, hey, this thing we're going to bring in will let you do this quarterly audit you're doing in AD right now, it'll automate that for you. Oh, I like that. No more Excel spreadsheets. No more Excel spreadsheets. You can automate this work you've been doing manually. But that also puts my tool in place now as a security person. So now I have my visibility and governance. But that IT person doesn't care. They just care that, oh, you helped automate this thing for me. So we have to get better at this. We have to get better in that kind of putting down our biased glasses about all the things we know about security and threats and approach these conversations in a way where we're listening to their challenges, we're listening to what's making life hard for them, and figure out how you can help that. If you can do that, you stop being seen as an obstacle. You start being seen as someone who supports IT and supports dev and supports finance. And boy, the security guys are always doing stuff for us. And meanwhile, we've been layering in all this new process and everything in behind the scenes to mitigate risk. That's the game. It's a complete change of how we did this 20 years ago. But it is the way it has to be done now. It just does. And it's something we all have to start practicing and getting better at if we're going to be successful in the mission of cybersecurity, which is to protect our organizations from the threats and the harm.
So one of the takeaways that I'm getting from the conversation here is that your security team needs to be taking classes or courses in effective communications.
Yes.
Effective communication.
1,000% yes.
Active listening.
Yeah. Look, 20 plus years ago, I mean, almost 30 now when I started my career, security didn't even exist when I started. There was no formal security team. We were in the IT department just being the people that said no a lot, right? But if you think about the progress of technology of the last 20, 30 years, security folks were by and large tool implementers.
Yes.
Right? We had nothing. We were told we had to have something. So we went out and got it, like antivirus and firewalls and traffic monitors and disk encryption. We went out and got all these tools because there was zero. And then we had to install them. So those of us who've been at this for a long time, yeah, we grew up, if you will, being pure technologists just for security tools. But the role has changed. We're not IT people anymore. We're risk people. We're soft skills managers now. We are translators for the business. We're the bridge between that technology that we implemented 100 times over, and now we have to be the communicators that turns that into something that people can understand at every level. Security is not a technology function anymore. It is not. We are more aligned with finance and legal than we are with IT and dev.
Interesting. A great statement.
But we have to be proficient at the technology that IT and dev uses because that's where we implement the security controls. So we're in this weird transition point as security practitioners and leaders right now who are coming up in that I talk to. All of them say the same thing. They're just like, I wish I had taken communication courses. I wish I had done something like that because I'm struggling right now. I know how to manage a firewall blind, but I don't know how to talk to this lawyer.
Right.
Yeah, that's your world now.
Well, so there's an interesting aspect of this, and I think of it around, and this is a multifaceted area of incident response and crisis management, because you're taking the people part of it to the nth degree because people are highly stressed. And then you layer onto it, everybody's under pressure for time. And then you have legal and reporting aspects that have to be done within a certain period of time. You have internal communications to your employees. You have external communications, not too much, just right. You have, maybe external legal contractors that have to help you with all of this.
Yeah.
This is, clearly there's highly technical aspects to this, but there is a ton of human aspect to this and communications aspect to that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, yes. I mean, the answer is just yes. It's as simple as that. I think that, again, if you look at incident response as a discipline, and this is something I actually spent a lot of my early career building incident response programs when I was in government. Uh, did this for different agencies throughout the state of California and some federal work as well in that regard. Um, Back then, organizations like SANS had put together some really great frameworks for a well-structured, disciplined, documented incident response program. And those frameworks always included you need a communications liaison, you need an HR representative, you need a legal representative. Like they were always very clear that you needed people on the incident team who were handling the people side of it. And ideally should not be the technologists who are fighting the fire inside the network, right? And so we've known this for a long time. But now ask me how many organizations I've worked with over the years that have included a communications director, an HR person, and a legal representative as part of their incident response plan. It's way fewer than any of us would like to hear,
Right.
right? I mean, maybe 1 in 10. And that is a disturbingly low number from my observations.
And it's a recipe for trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. It shouldn't be the exception to have those people involved. So I think that is another one of those places where we focus on the technology because it's comfortable. It's an easy place for us to fall back to. And in the case of an incident, it's where the fire is being fought.
Right.
So that's fair. Like we do need to be able to deal with that. But you do have to have those additional resources because you're not managing the people side of it. You make the rest of it worse, right? Think of emergency management in anything outside of technology. Why do big stadium events, sporting events, concerts, these kinds of things? Why do they have fire exits and emergency exits stationed all the way they do? Because they know that when something goes wrong, people panic, they just run. And we've seen in the past, in years, there's been tragedies over the years where people have been trampled to death. It's been, the death toll goes way up, not because of the fire or the incident that triggered it, but because of the panic that happened afterwards and people were just frantic and not thinking. So having, from a cybersecurity incident response perspective, panic can make it worse for us too. If your customers are flooding your lines with questions because you've hit the news with no statement, they don't really know what's going on or what to expect, your team can't communicate with each other anymore. They're going to struggle with that. You've made it harder to fight the fire. So building in that formal practice of communication, having someone who has those soft skills, even if it's not on your security team, get somebody from PR, get someone from comms, bring somebody in who has that skill set and educate them on the incident process, help them understand the technology around how you contain an incident and respond to it. But have that skill set somewhere in your program because it is almost as critical in my mind as the people who know how to segment the network and cut off a ransomware attack before it spreads further than it already has. You've got to build that stuff in and take it seriously. It cannot be an optional part of your incident response program. It has to be there.
Well, we certainly have, unfortunately, a good number of examples of organizations under attack that have communicated poorly.
It's also, I think, it's part of the factors of what's driving a lot of consumers to demand better security from their businesses, right? They themselves, if they may not understand incident response, but they always understand with, wait a second, it took you 10 days to respond to this thing that has been out for 10 days, and what you said was this tiny little blurb that doesn't tell me anything. I might not know anything about technology, but I know I don't like that. I want a business that responds faster, tells me clear information, gives me a clear idea of what impact it is to me as the customer and what I can do next, right? And you hear this all the time, like, oh, there's the same boilerplate about credit monitoring services. Oh, there's the same, the same tweet about whatever. People are getting tired of that. They're seeing bad examples of how it's done, and they know they want something better. So there's pressure building, I think, in the non-technical audience, if you will, for organizations to do better when it comes to how they communicate about incidents, how they communicate about data breaches or service outages or whatever the problem might be. That communication piece is becoming more and more important for your customers.
Well, and it's sort of it has a side benefit in that many of these people that are subjected to this and see this poor communication, they're our employees. And so they recognize what they don't want to have happen in their own organization. Yeah. So that the security team benefits from that. I mean, they never explicitly say, you don't want to be another Change Health, but they say this would, as you see in the newspapers, we don't want to be one of those. So,
yeah.
So it's been a great conversation, and I love this aspect of bringing to the fore the people aspect that has typically been neglected. And do you have any closing thoughts for the audience? Any go forth and do this? Take an effective communications class? Or
I mean, we could probably say that one 100 times over, but well, I'm going to say this. This is not going to be a popular answer for some folks who have, now sat with us for almost an hour, and they're looking for, okay, so what do I do? And the thing is, you have to know there's no magic fix here. There isn't. There's no single answer to all of these problems. Your organization is going to be different than the organization next to you. And even within verticals, I find that, one bank here, they build their infrastructure completely differently than the bank over here. And so their needs are different. Their political climate's different. Their budget's different. The skill sets, things are going to be different. And there's lots of frameworks. There's lots of people out there who can help. But build the thing for what's right for you and your users. It's going to be a little bit different. And that's okay. You want to make sure it's relevant to your own company and not just duplicating what someone else has done. Make it resonate with the people that you're dealing with on a daily basis. The board, the CTO, the dev team, the IT folks, the user base, whatever it is. If you can win the people over in your organization, you can make those big changes for a better identity governance, for changing the way NHIs are implemented, for services and applications. You can start to do that, but you have to build it from the standpoint of the people you're already working with, not a copy paste from somewhere else who has different everything. So take the time, listen to the people in your organization, understand what's really keeping them up at night. Don't worry about what keeps you up at night yet, but just trust that if you go through that process and you build a program that supports what they need, you will also get what you need out of it too from a security perspective. It will happen. So put the time in. Sorry, I don't have an easy red button for you, but it will work. It will come around, and you'll see differences the more and more that you engage that way with the people in your organization.
I think if I had to summarize your summary, I think it would come down to empathy. Understand what the CFO cares about. Understand what the salesperson cares about. Understand what the IT operator cares about. Now, empathy is not something that you usually hear in the same sentence along with cybersecurity team.
Yeah.
But there's the call to action on it. So
I think you're right. And I think that, good communications courses, you mentioned active listening earlier. I mean, good communications courses teach listening. That's a critical part of the process. And I think, again, we are very smart people when it comes to cybersecurity. We understand threats. We understand criminal actors. We spent a lot of our lives looking for all the holes in the network, right? But it's time for us to listen more. It really is time for security organizations to listen more and figure out how to kind of quietly navigate, showing some empathy for everyone else's challenges, show them what's in it for them, and then use that to build what you actually need to do to mitigate all that risk. That's where we're going.
Well, thank you, Nathan. I really appreciate the time. If you found this to be interesting, subscribe, and thanks for joining us.